Oh, no!
Greetings, everyone. I am your ever so humble host of The Wedding Biz, Andy Kushner, and this is The Next Level with myself and my co-host, Melissa Fancy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show.
That's right. And together, Melissa and I are going to discuss the most recent guest interview and suss out a few key topics and translate them into specific tactical strategies that you can use to bring your business to the next level. Therefore, the brilliant title of this segment, The Next Level. Gosh, Melissa, I guess I'm not being so humble after all.
I think that'll happen, especially since we're getting ready for Engage. Like at the end of the day, I'm just really excited to share more of this and to see everyone. I don't know about you. I've already done all my shopping. I'm set. I'm ready.
And me, I get the list of all the clothes and everything. It's like, oh, help somebody. I need someone to help me.
Right. Yes.
But it's going to be fine. I'm psyched.
Oh, gosh. Yes. If you are heading to Engage as well, we are so looking forward to seeing you. We have a guide that we are putting together of all of the interviews that Andy has done of the speakers going to be at Banff, and we will be sending that out to you. So if you have not subscribed to our newsletter, make sure you go to our website, theweddingbiz.com, and subscribe. If you are not attending Engage, make sure that you're paying attention to our Instagram at Wedding Biz Show. We have so much we're going to be sharing. We have live interviews that will be happening. We have behind the scenes. You'll get to see our outfits. You'll get to see all of the
thanks
fun
for the
things
pressure.
That happen at Engage.
Thank you. Thank you for the pressure.
Yes. Hey, listen, you got to level up here. So we are also very excited about the anniversary show that we just did. If you guys haven't listened to it, you need to go back and check it out. It has been amazing, the feedback we've gotten from it. And we've gotten also some great questions submitted from our listeners that are looking for some answers from Andy, you, or me, or our guests from the podcast. This one from Tiffany Bertel, I just wanted to share with you. She asks, should I allow my staff to post images of the events I'm working on? Andy?
Wow. Well, first of all, I'm going to throw it back to you in a minute, Melissa, because, I think this is really right up your alley. But my quick take on that is that it depends on the situation. I know some of us, sign these NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, and we're not allowed to show pictures. Some of us might be able to show pictures of our work, like in my particular case, the music. But in terms of posting pictures of the guests, that are in them, I'm not sure about that. I mean, what do you think, Melissa?
Well, I don't know that it's necessarily always about the guest, right? So like a lot of event planners and florists, et cetera, have in their contracts that you actually, as their client, agree to them sharing your images, submitting them for publication, et cetera. And, when you start getting into submissions and all of that, there's really sort of reasons to keep a lid on it. And Tiffany, your question about should you allow your staff to post images is really more about how you are working your social media presence as your own brand, right? So if you are having a very curated Instagram and you have this great team, floral staff, whatever, and they're all proud of their work, I see them all the time, taking pictures. But I don't know that it's necessarily on brand quality or representative of your brand. So I would be really careful about having a policy and just enact one. Talk to your staff, make sure that maybe they are only reposting what you post as a brand versus them posting their own Instagram, growing their own Instagram on behalf of your company. There's a whole nother conversation there too. But as far as like the NDAs and stuff, you really also need to be clear with your staff about what the requests and requirements are from the clients. I've had clients that have had NDAs and then they've come back later and said, hey, actually, we are so happy about our wedding. We want you to be able to share these images. Just don't share anything that has people in them. And that's also fine. So it's really up for discussion once you really get, like you're saying, Andy, up to those, really, really high level clients. You will have more NDA requirements there. But as far as Tiffany's question, I think it's just about, implementing a policy.
Okay, well, let's move on in terms of today's guest, which was Kevin Lee. I had so much fun, Melissa, with Kevin. I've known about him for a really long time and love how charismatic he is. And so I really looked forward to sitting down and not only enjoying myself, but also getting to know the serious side of him. And sure enough, it was really interesting. Kevin talked about even how careful he is in choosing which TV appearances that he he appears on, because he gets a lot of offers. And although he is a very funny guy and has a very entertaining side, he mentioned that he doesn't want to present like a caricature of himself. So he's got to be careful and make sure that still the serious side of the real, the planner designer side of him is being a message and expressed his brand. And so our conversation was very enlightening. And again, we all get to see a different side of him. And I want to urge everyone that if you have not yet listened to the actual interview, I suggest that you do go back and hear it. It's really interesting. So what Melissa and I are going to do now is, again, to kind of bring out some of the highlights and help you to, be able to actually use them in your own business. And one that really stuck out to me was when Kevin talked about the issue of challenges, facing challenges in the moment that, you could only prepare so much. And he talked about how you just have to be aware going into it that even if everything looks perfect on paper, there are going to be last minute problems and challenges to overcome. And it was interesting, Melissa, he said that if he can execute 85% of what's on the paper, then in his mind, it's 100% successful.
I thought that was super powerful. Something I've always told my clients, especially, when you're sort of in the courting each other stage, right, is like, you're not hiring me because I'm perfect. I know that you are going to have a perfect wedding day, but that's not because you're hiring, these perfect robots. Like, everybody's human, and with that comes human error. So 85% is pretty amazing if that's what we're seeing as vendors on the backside of it. If your client sees 100% perfection, that's really all that matters. But what they're really hiring all of us for, especially at these, higher level of talent, is that we have the solution for that little small percent of things that maybe would go wrong. We know how to fix it. We know how to handle it. And we know how to not tell you about it unless we absolutely have to. So I think that's really a powerful thing he shared.
Well, yeah, he mentioned that too, that he still maintains a very calm demeanor and smiles all the time. And it's not just for the clients, it's even for his own staff. So everyone could really stay calm and deal with it. And in terms of that percentage, I want to clarify when he said that if you can execute 85% of what's on the paper, it's 100% successful. But still, he makes up that 15% difference by, again, maintaining a calm demeanor and dealing with it in the moment and trusting that he and his team can deal with it in the moment. And one other point that he made about it, which I thought was great tip for all of us, is that, and especially for the huge weddings, he builds in 10% is what he said, and sets it aside for paying for problems later that are going to occur at every wedding. And that reminded me about a conversation I had with Preston Bailey, who was interviewed last year, who talked about what happens, and it's rare, but he said that what happens if after the fact there is something that a client brings up that they notice or were upset about. And he gave an example that even Preston Bailey, had a real big one once, and he did some kind of a payback in terms of money that was way more than was necessary, because he's looking at the long-term brand. He wants people to even be able to say, wow, Preston really listened to me, and I understand what happened now, and he more than made up for it. He really cared. So anyway, let's move on. What about another topic, Melissa? What else did you pick up on?
I think for me, when I was finished listening to his interview with you, I really was struck by two things: his discipline and his passion. And the discipline part I thought was just so amazing. And if you look at how he, started out in life, like he was in this amazing art school, he did ballet, he did clarinet. Can you imagine that? I mean, the effort that goes into being a successful
cool story.
Player. I know,
yeah, who knew that he was in the pit orchestra? I had no idea.
So amazing. But that really was where I think the discipline became part of who he is. And I think it probably helps him keep a calm demeanor in these situations that for many people would be really, full of pressure and stress, but it's also his passion. So if you combine that, you really get this magical combination. And I think he said it drives him all the way through. But I also think for us, for you, for me, for everyone listening, work on your discipline, but don't forget to work on your passion, right? So I see a lesson here that we've all decided we really love something so that we're going to go and make a career out of it. You know, I love flowers. I'm going to go be a florist. I'm super organized. I love that. So I'm going to be a wedding planner. I love music. I'm going to play wedding music. So what happens though is it becomes something that we just do for work. And all of a sudden we're burnt out because we've been doing it only for work every Saturday for, 8 to 10 or 25 years.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
So you've got to nurture it and you've got to find outlets that you can take your passion and apply it in other ways. So like figure out a way to apply it to, community work or giving it back to your little neighborhood or give it back to just your own personal piece. I mean, we've had people on the show. Well, you've had people on the show that are amazing and they'll say, yeah, I actually just garden. That's my happy place. So I think we have to nurture that,
Yeah, I agree with that. Another topic that I noticed too that I thought was important is when I asked him about his process in dealing with his wedding clients, I like how he said this. He said that he first wants to learn their flair as a couple, which was a different, that word for me, Melissa, it does something. And so I asked him, well, okay, how do you do that? What is your technique? And he talked about things like finding out what restaurants they go to and where they like to shop and what resorts they like to go to and why and what type of music do they listen to the most. And so that is something that maybe a lot of us do think of. But again, I like that little twist. What is their flair? Not just their interest, but you know what I mean? Like their overall sense of personality.
Well, it's like he's making his own little profile for each client, and I think it's also something that helps every event and wedding he does not look the same, So he's really creating a custom experience for everybody. And that's why people keep hiring him. I mean, it's amazing.
Yes. And also something else that struck me, he says that he asks about their guests. I loved that one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And especially if there might be some super high end guests there and what he meant. So he is actually very direct and says, and again, this is certain clients, how many high net worth friends are you going to have? And the reason he asks is that these people, and I could really relate to this, I've dealt with this, these kind of people have seen it all. They have been all over the world. As Kevin said in his own words, they have seen the most fabulous parties. It's very hard to impress them, or even better yet, let's say to surprise them. And so he likes to get information about that because he might, and he said, for example, have a particular high-end champagne or some kind of gold leaf glasses, or maybe he's going to bring up to his client, well, perhaps you want to consider some A-list entertainers. And so he's really getting them to be very specific.
Well, and that's where, he's so amazing at not just customizing the experience for his clients every time, but the event itself and then the experience for the guests. And I think so many people, again, it goes back to this is his passion, right? So he's not just saying, oh, I'm just going to show up and, do the work and go home. He's personally invested in it. Didn't you say he has like a special team committed to each new event? Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, that was interesting. I believe that he has a 20-member team. However, after he meets with the couple and gets through all of this kind of information gathering, he then creates a new team. And that was, in a sense, a whole nother topic. Everyone can listen to a lot of this when they listen to it, and in the guide that Melissa will mention in a moment that she puts out. But one of his techniques, too, is that he, in order to help him come up with something different, although he does have a comfort level with certain team members who are outside of his employment, he will often purposely bring in brand new people, create a whole new team. And I loved it. And that also, Melissa, you talked earlier about this point about keeping your passion going. That ties in directly. It's one way for him to keep this passion going is creating a new team. And yes, that can bring some challenges to himself because he hasn't worked with some of these people before. But I loved that. I thought that was a great idea also. And so,
well, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's all we have time for today. I want to thank everyone for listening. And Melissa?
Thank you guys for being such active listeners to our fun news segment. We've been getting a lot of great feedback. Make sure that you are subscribed on our website, theweddingbiz.com, for the next level guide that I'll be sending out to you. I actually have so many more things to share from Kevin's interview, so that will be going out in that email. Also, make sure that you are following us on Instagram. We have a lot of really fun things happening in the next month. So get on our Insta at Wedding Biz Show, and we'll see you soon.
That's right, everyone. Take care. Thanks again.
Don't worry about it.